Hi, this is Erica Merrill, and I'm the founder of Perfect Legal Video. And I'm here today with attorney Nicole Reeves Lavallee. She owns a family and real estate law firm in the Worcester area. She's very knowledgeable, and we are very lucky to have her every week giving us information that helps us save hundreds of thousands of dollars, really, collectively at least, and maybe even just for one client, depending on the situation. So it's always exciting to have her. Thank you so much for joining us, Nicole, and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So today we're going to talk about really attorney's fees and the information that you need to know to come up with an initial quote on what the case starting price would cost. And I know a lot of people are worried about that. So today we're going to talk about how you determine those prices and what kind of information goes into that. So why don't we start with you telling us a little bit about the information you need and the types, the information you need for the different types of cases that you handle, because it's not just a divorce. But unfortunately, what a lot of us know is that after you get divorced, sometimes that's when things just start heating up.
Absolutely. And I think, obviously, if you have a case pending and you're coming to me, first and foremost is going to be bring me everything that you have to date. So any pleadings, any court orders, any financial statements, anything that you've gotten as a result of this pending action. Now, obviously, if you haven't started a case, then it's going to be a little more case sensitive based off of what I'm looking for. So again, as a divorce, the first thing I'm going to need is a certified copy of the marriage certificate. But I'm going to need other stuff. I don't know what that other stuff is until I kind of know what you're looking for. Are you saying that your ex stole money? Okay, well, do you have those documents to prove it? Are you saying that somebody's hiding assets? Again, those are things I'm going to need to ask specific questions on. If it's a contempt, it's going to be, I need to see the last judgment. And I need to know how they violated that judgment. Do we have any emails, text, communications between the parties showing that? Is there, is child support and he's not paying, DOR printouts? So again, we're going to look at what we need. And all too often, I have clients that just really go, well, you need to give me this information. Well, I need to know more about your case because everything is going to be case specific. It's going to be related to you and where you are in the process. Again, if you're halfway through the divorce process and you're thinking about switching over to another attorney and you want me to go in for the trial, well, one, I have to get up to speed, but two, most of the work's done. But if your file's this big versus this big, that's going to be a problem. So again, I need to gauge that based off of the records that you're bringing to me. All too often, people want to just say, well, you can look at the docket online and determine it. No, I can't. Let me be clear. I cannot. I am not, since I'm not the attorney of record, cannot look at half the documentation. I'm not allowed to look at financial statements, even as an attorney, unless I become your attorney. And even then, I'd have to go down and physically look at it in the courthouse. So no, I can't look at this stuff online. A lot of times there are orders that I should be able to look at, but for whatever reason, the court has decided I'm not allowed to look at it. Again, I would have to go down to the courthouse and look at it. So to assume that an attorney can just look it all up online and be able to give you the information is really disingenuous. And I wish that clients would understand that, because we're not looking at, it's a divorce. Great. It's a modification. We need to look at the specifics of your case to address exactly what information we don't have, and more importantly, what we do have and how it supports it or doesn't.
And that makes a lot of sense. I mean, people don't think about that. And I'm sure if someone's not getting the result they like, they want to change attorneys. I know people who have had 3 different attorneys in their divorce case and in their cases after the divorce. And I think, I don't know about you, but it makes me think, well, what's wrong with them? I don't always think that it's the attorney. I mean, do you get that sense when you have someone sitting in front of you that has just had a line of attorneys?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it could be just that personality clashes. Sometimes it's just something more grave that, the attorney got sick and can't do it, or the attorney left the firm and they really don't like the boss or whoever else they assigned them to. So sometimes it's just something that simple. Other times it's, hey, I need constant hand holding and I need that daily interaction and I'm not getting it from my attorney. And then there's other people that I can't talk to my attorney because they only want to text me and I have no idea how to text. So there could be underlying reasons, or it could be just a personality conflict where, look, I'm going to tell you to do this. Do it. Why are you not doing this? And the person's going, why are you yelling at me? And so again, there's a lot of reasons why they might change. From an attorney's perspective, that's another reason why we need to sit down and meet with you, because we don't get along with everybody. I mean, that's human nature. Nobody gets along with everybody 100% of the time. So I need to understand that I can have a relationship with you, that I can talk to you, that I can understand you. Sometimes it's just something different where it's a language barrier and I can only understand half the words you're saying and I really don't get it. So it really depends on the circumstances. Sometimes it's a bad thing that you're attorney number 3, and sometimes it's, hey, you're actually listening to me and thank you so much for helping me out.
And that's so true. It's like dating, right? You gotta date and figure out if somebody is a good personality match. And it really is an emotional journey for some people, and probably for most people, especially if you've never had to go through a court case for anything before. And so there's that emotional side to the whole thing. So you definitely do need the right person to help you.
Absolutely.
I find that you are very empathetic, but very concise in your approach and your advice. And there are things that you think that because you know your ex, that Nicole might tell you, like, actually, this is what's going to happen in the future. And you're like, no. Listen, because she sees this every single day. She's does hundreds of cases every year. So it's not a surprise to her when certain things happen. I mean, do you see a lot of surprised people?
I see a lot of people that don't believe me, and then they go, you told me that 6 months ago. I can't believe you were right. And again, it's because, one, I'm taking a step back. I'm not emotionally attached to this person that you can't stand. They're not, pressing my buttons. I don't care what they say, whatever. They can make that whatever argument they want. But again, I'm that person that sees it and I can look at big picture, and yes, I've done this long enough that I can know, if you're telling me this was happening during the marriage, it's likely going to continue to happen after the marriage. Well, yeah, but he's going to have to be a better person, or, but I won't be there. Well, guess what? It's one of those things that people don't change. So if you're telling me that this was an issue in your marriage, chances are it's going to be an issue after a modification, or, if we're fighting over custody later on. Those are the things that aren't going to change. But again, you're too close to it or too personally involved that you're going, no, it's not true until it's true.
And unfortunately, that's the disappointing truth to the matter when you find that out. So we were talking about different types of cases, and you did mention that there's a difference between when someone first comes to see you and has a very small file and they're just starting the process, to someone that might have been in the process for a year and a half and they've done a bunch of discovery and they've got a whole bunch of documents that they can share with you, to whether they're doing a trial versus whether their divorce is done and they're doing a modification or they're doing a contempt. I mean, can you tell us, like, what are some of the most expensive things to do? This is what I found fascinating. We've spoken, we've touched on this before, like the different things that people are trying to modify and how expensive it can be if you can't compromise with your ex.
Well, I think it's always going to be the same. If you are fighting over custody, if it's a change in a parenting schedule and it's just tweaks, chances are you're not going to be as costly. But if you're fighting over physical custody, changing it from one parent to another, or trying to change it from joint parenting to one individual, that's usually the most expensive because it's a higher standard that the attorneys have to engage in, and the client has to prove. So those are going to be the key things. Obviously, when we're fighting about money, it really depends on how much we're fighting over. The guidelines are going to be the guidelines. So it really boils down to, can one party prove that somebody is underemployed or that they're hiding assets? But I don't necessarily care that they're hiding assets. I care that they're hiding income, because that's more important. If it's a modification, I don't care if they have $10 million in a bank account. The only question is, how did they get it? If they got an inheritance, then it's probably a one-time lump sum thing. If they got it in an annuity and they're getting that every month, well, then that's income, and that's going to factor into the child support. So again, really depends on where that money came from, but I don't care that you have it. I can't do anything under the modification. But if you are able to save that, then again, I'm going to go with, where'd that money come from? And as long as I can show that there's a paper trail and it came through legitimate means that you're now putting on your income, then I don't care. So those are kind of the big issues of, the changing of custody or child support / I'm not working up to my earning potential. I used to work, 40 hours a week, and now I'm down to 20 hours and I want a reduction. Well, why? And that's what the court is going to look at.
So is there any advice that you have for people? I mean, I know that there's some frustration. There's some frustration for people who are coming in. They don't know anything. They might even be totally bewildered by their situation. They had not expected, as we've mentioned, like, you think you know someone and you have no idea that you're going to be in court, having to pay for an attorney. You've no idea except for what you've seen on the TV, or maybe what you heard from your neighbor about their son that went through a divorce. I mean, it's just a lot of bad information out there. If someone comes in and they're going to sit down with you, like, what are the first few things that you're going to ask for in order to determine what their situation is, and possibly what the fees might range?
Well, I'm going to back up one step on that first. I'm going to say that you have to talk to the staff first and foremost, because they're going to get a sense of what your case is about. And off of them, I'm either going to tell them, hey, we need to have these additional documents before our meeting, or when you bring them into our meeting, again, I might need supplemental documentation. So it really kind of depends on where you are. Again, if you're in that case already, bring me everything. I don't care. Bring me everything. All too often people say, oh, well, I want you to, take over this case. Okay, great. First and foremost, when's the next court date? Let me make sure I don't have a conflict that day. Second, who's the other attorney? And then third, what is that hearing scheduled for? Because it may be something that I'm going, I'm not prepared to do a pretrial. And if I look at opposing counsel and I go, they're never going to agree to a continuance, then I'm going to probably tell you to either take your chances and go in and represent yourself that day, keep your current attorney until right after it, or, try to get it continued. But the moment I get involved, maybe there's a conflict thing. So I'm going to look at that before we even get to the documentation, because that's something that I'm going to know. I know who's going to be respectful and go, oh yeah, she just got in this case. That's okay. Go ahead and continue it. I'm also going to look at the time frame. Again, if you're talking about a divorce and you're in year 3 and you're still not divorced, then the judge may not even grant us a continuance. So again, from my perspective, I need to look at that whole docket to determine where we are, and is it something that I can even do at this point. But again, if you're a new case, it's going to be, what do you think is going to support your position? What documents are you going to have? If you're saying he's a cheater, okay, show me the records. If you're saying he's wasting assets, show me the records. If you're saying he can't take care of the children and the children are being abused or neglected, show me the records. So it kind of depends on what you're saying you need or what you're looking for as a result. If you're making these allegations, what records do you have to support it? Because obviously you're not going to have court pleadings, because we just determined it was a new case, but you're going to have something. If you're dealing with, something simple, like we're talking about a real estate deal that went bad, again, show me all the documentation. So whatever that looks like from your perspective of what you're coming to see me on, what records do you have to support your position? And then the other part of that is going to be, what records do you have that don't support your position? I.e., I'm saying he's a deadbeat and he hasn't paid child support, but I have a DOR printout and he's sporadic at best. Or he sent me an email and he apologized and he asked for us to work out a payment plan. Well, then it's probably not a contempt if he's at least justifying and trying to have a conversation with you, because I don't know that it's going to rise a standard of willful and wanton conduct. So again, I'm going to look at the good stuff that you have for me and the stuff that's not so helpful for you, but we need to review it all so we can come up with that game plan.
I mean, that sounds reasonable. We've covered a lot today about fees and what it takes to determine what those fees will be, and whether you're a good fit or not for someone, personality wise, or what management or whatever else comes up, because there definitely are a lot of factors. Is there anything that we might have missed that you'd like to tell the audience today before we go?
I think the only big point I would say is good attorneys aren't going to give you quotes over the phone. Good attorneys are not going to listen to a 5-minute segment of your version of events and be able to give you any real answers. If they're giving you answers on a quick 5-minute synopsis, or if they're giving you answers when you brought in documents but you haven't talked to them, that's a bad lawyer. Those should be red flags for you. Those should be things that are standing out going, how can you possibly do that? Because I need to know. It's not about the documents and it's not about the words. It's about both of those together. And more importantly, it's about what other information I'm going to need, because I can guarantee you what you've told my staff and what you've indicated in terms of documents isn't enough. I need to have more information. The more intel that we have, the better off we are to represent you.
And that makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much for joining us today, Nicole. Your information is fantastic, and we are very privileged to receive that from you every week. So thanks again.
Thanks for having me.
You are welcome. And thanks everyone out there for watching. We will see you again next week. Have a great weekend.